Hi friends, Animatt here. It's finally time to answer the question that everyone's been asking. Out of the 12 disciples, who is the best? Get your bad selves ready for the definitive disciples tier list. First, some ranking guidelines. I'll be rating each of the 12 apostles up through the 4 gospel accounts. We aren't counting the sequel, and we're not looking at any of the expanded universe. As for our ranking criteria, what makes a good disciple? Now, we could have a theological debate about what makes someone good, but that would take up the whole video. In fact, Jesus already told them not to debate about who is the greatest, so we already failed on that part. We're just going to use a conventional definition. Do the gospel accounts view their actions in a positive or negative light? Alright, let's get to it. Peter. Actually, he's a tricky one. Let's save him for last. Next, Andrew. Okay, we don't know much about him. He leaves his job to follow Jesus. For that, I'll give him an A tier. James and John. We can rank them together. They're brothers, both part of Jesus' inner circle. On the plus side, they left their family business to follow Jesus, but they were a little full of themselves. Like, there was this one time where they were walking to Samaria, but the people there were trolling the disciples. James and John want to go full Roy Mustang on them. Jesus, you want us to call fire down on these fools? Solid C tier. Okay, Philip. Great dude. He gets Nathaniel to follow Jesus. He asks some good questions. A tier. Bartholomew. People think that this is probably the same Nathaniel that I just mentioned. If that's the case, he starts off real skeptical of Jesus. Basically, he calls Jesus' hometown a slum in the most classist way possible. But Jesus also calls him a true Israelite, and Bartholomew is able to put aside his prejudice to follow Jesus. I give him a B tier. My man Thomas. He gets a bunch of flack all the time, people calling him Doubting Thomas. So yeah, he did doubt that Jesus had risen from the dead, but let's at least take a look at a Thomas highlight clip. When everyone else was trying to stop Jesus from going back to Jerusalem, he was the one who says, "Let us also go that we may die with him." I know this might get some people upset, but I'm gonna put Thomas in the B tier. If you got something to say about my call on Thomas, put that in the comments. Matt the tax collector. Easiest triple S of my life. Next. Matt? You're not just saying that because he's got the same name as you, right? Okay. If we take personal bias out of this, we're looking at a tax collector. These people were 100% the worst people ever, the embodiment of greed. They were employed by the Romans who occupied Israel at the time. That basically meant Matthew turned his back on his country just so he could have a little more money and power. Granted, Matthew did renounce his ways, so I can't put him in F tier. He lands around here. James and Thaddeus. The Gospels don't really say much about these two, so I'm gonna put them in the I don't know tier. Simon the Zealot. Here's an interesting one. The Bible doesn't say a whole lot about this guy, but it does give him the tag Zealot. He was likely part of this Jewish extremist group who thought that violence was the answer to free themselves from Rome. So this guy was the Antifa/alt-right of the group. He had some big Katniss Everdeen hero killer Stain energy going on here. Doesn't sound too great considering that he's following Jesus, who says, "If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also." Probably a D tier. I think we can all agree on this one. Judas Iscariot. Let's see. Pros? He's good with money. Cons? Top 10 anime betrayals. Absolute trash. Alright, back to Peter. We definitely have the most detail about him in the gospel. Early game, he's really strong. He gives up his fishing business to follow Jesus, has enough faith for Jesus to heal his mother-in-law, and he walks on water with Jesus. However, mid-game, he starts to fall off. We find that he is brash, prideful, always talks with his foot in his mouth. He's a really inconsistent pick. There's this time where Peter says, "Jesus, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus is all, "Yes, you get it." Then, literally the same chapter, Peter's like, "I'm not going to let you die, Jesus." And Jesus responds, "Do you even understand what I'm here for?" And he calls Peter Satan. Yeah. And of course, we can't forget about the story arc included in all 4 Gospels where Peter totally cancels Jesus to virtue signal in front of a crowd. Peter is the perfect shonen anime protag. He's got that fiery passion, believe in yourself vibe, but he's also got those same prideful, rash character flaws. He's got a lot of pros and a lot of cons. I'll put him in C tier, but I'm definitely open to other opinions. We can learn a lot about how Jesus sees team comp by looking at this list. Jesus' disciple loadout is trash. I mean, you are the son of God. You get first pick on everyone in the universe and you pick an average of C-tier units? What are you doing? He's got a frickin' F tier in his party. He picked Judas, someone who literally griefs his whole team. Clearly, he's not picking people for their power or their influence, and he's not picking people for their character or their heart. Also, look at this absolute lack of team synergy. We have Matthew the tax collector amidst some dedicated Jews. This is somebody who literally betrayed his country, religion, and culture. Yet, Jesus wants him to hang out with this politically militant pro-Jew. And we have Jesus, who does the most radically non-violent protest in history, partied up with James and John, who want to fireblast Samaritans for being unwelcoming. Most people would say that you should team up with people who are close to your rank and complement your playstyle. That's how you have the most fun. Social media tells us to post our beliefs so that people know which side you're on. Jesus' off-meta low-tier team, however, says something completely different about how his disciples should live. Jesus is able to forge deep friendships with a militant Jew, a tax collector, a few hot-headed nobodies, and somebody who literally participates in his execution. These people are objectively wrong about some of the most important things in life, yet he doesn't require them to get their ideology right first. What if we shaped our lives and communities in a way that welcomed all sorts of people, regardless of how right or wrong they are? PC. What characterizes a group following Jesus isn't that everyone believes the right thing. Instead, it's characterized by a radical unity amongst many people who are plain wrong. Here's the challenge. Try to build a relationship with someone who believes something different than you. Jesus and his disciples are a picture of fundamentally different people living in unity. We can be that too. This is good news. Hey friends, thanks so much for watching. I'd love it if you gave this video a like, subscribe to the channel maybe, share it with your friends who are into meme theology. I've got a couple ending comments on this tier list of mine. I mean, first off, I know some of you guys are going to be mad that I placed your mains on such a low tier, and I do know that by the end of their life, 11 out of the 12 of these guys were meta-shaping revolutionary. I think that's a whole nother topic, right? But I also wish I had time to cover many of the other disciples, the 72, the Apostle Paul, or maybe Jesus' woman disciples. I mean, then we might have had at least one S tier. Feel free to let me know in the comments where you think Jesus' other followers might rank on this list. And last thing, I just hope this video empowers you to make friendships that change your worldview, just like what happened to these disciples, right? Don't use this in a way to enable yourself to stay wrong. Jesus is always sacrificing power and comfort and status to be closer to those who view the world differently than him. So yeah, that's it. Jesus thinks you're awesome, and I do too, so see you in the next video. Okay, thanks, bye!